Back to the cam screen and totally redo this intro. So, my name is Jeremy Morgan, and welcome to All Hands on Tech Live. I'm your host today. I do this on Tuesdays. David Neal does it on Thursdays. He's building an Electron app that is a Electron-based teleprompter app, so it's really cool. So, what I'm doing is I'm building this set of tools in Blazor, and a couple of streams ago, we did this What's My IP thing where it reaches out, finds out what your IP address is and maps it. And then I decided to add another tool to it, which is a weather tool, basically. So what we're doing is we're reading Metars. Now, Metars are strings of text that are sent out by airports. So different towered airports will have these Metar reports that they send out, and you have to read them and decode them. It's part of getting your pilot's license. And what I wanted to do is grab some of those text string Metar reports and turn them into something that's a little bit more readable, more user-friendly, that sort of thing. And so that's what we've done. And that's what we're doing today. We'll jump back in here. And I'm doing this with Blazor. And I'll just go ahead and show you what we have so far, if it will run. Let's hope it will run. And today's stream is brought to you by cold ice water that I'm going to be drinking a lot of because it is really hot here in Oregon, as we'll see. Actually, today is pretty mild compared to what it has been. So this is our What's My IP app. And we built this on the Twitch stream a few weeks ago. And basically it just says, what's your IP? You're located in Hillsboro, Oregon. It shows a map. I'm not really in Hillsboro. I'm kind of more over here, but I'm pretty close to Hillsboro. So I figure that's pretty good geo-IP location precision. I would be a little weirded out if it actually like zoomed into my house. So we have these Metar reports, and this is what I was describing. It's a string of text here. It's just text and digits. Each of these kind of go through specific sections. And what makes this really challenging, and I didn't really think about it, I didn't think it all the way through when I was planning on doing this, but one of the things that makes it challenging is it kind of, like there's a different amount of fields, and sometimes those fields can be different. So what I'm thinking we're going to do today is try to identify the field based on the data that's in it. So when I look at some of these things, and I just recently got my drone pilot license, and that's what kind of inspired this. And one of the things you have to do for the test is read these things. So you can kind of recognize the patterns in it. And I think we're going to use those patterns. Like this basically says that the wind is blowing at 30 degrees from north at 3 knots. So we can actually look for this string and say, this is probably wind. Same thing with this. We have 10 SM. That means that visibility is 10 statute miles. So if we see a field that has 4 characters and starts with an integer, ends with an SM, we can say this is probably visibility. And I can turn up the sound here a little bit if that helps. Okay, is that a little bit better for the sound? And I think, oh, I didn't. Oops. I will turn this up, turn the desktop audio down a little bit here. Okay, how does that sound, Luis? Okay, awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue to do this. One of the things that I noticed is that the Metars are so different because of the fields. So anything after RMK, which is remark, is going to be remarks that they add in to that field. So there could be 1 remark, there can be 10 remarks. So we know that this is going to be a variable amount of fields. One of the other issues we have is sometimes we'll have some fields that will be implemented or inserted in between the other fields. So I think the very first thing I'm going to do today is probably focus on the first few fields, and we'll make sure that they are what they think they are, and then we'll start addressing some other things. I'm going to take some Metars from different airports all around the country to use for a test. So we'll stop this really quick, and I'll just kind of go back through here. And we don't really need to care about that. And I'll show you roughly what we did last week, just kind of as a recap here. So in here in our weather, we have basically just a weather razor page here. And we have a string here for Metar text, which is just the string of the Metar that we're using. And then I've created an object here, plain old class object, which has airport code, Zulu date and time, wind speed, visibility, precipitation, cloud cover, temp and dew point, altimeter. We have a remark indicator, which means there are remarks, and then the string of remarks. So each of these are just kind of located in this class. We go down here, we send out a check to this checkwx.com to grab that Metar for whatever airport we want it to. And I've been using HIO, I believe, which is my local Hillsborough airport. We'll use PDX, maybe we'll go to Los Angeles. It's different airports and just see how they're different. And as you can see by my to-dos here, I put these in last week. Factor in precipitation. If precipitation exists, it's going to insert a field in the middle of that Metar, which is, of course, then going to shift all of the other ones and screw everything up. Factor in multiple cloud reports. So the way they do cloud reports, you know, there's 3 different levels of elevation of clouds. And if there's some clouds here and some clouds here and some clouds here, they're going to put in 3 different fields for those clouds. If there's only one layer, then it's only going to have one. And so that's going to be another variable thing. And then for the to-do, I think I'm going to grab all the remarks and maybe we'll put them into a separate string array. So that way we can have as many remarks as we want and it can scale out. And what I do is take the Metar, split it by space. So we know that spaces are the separator for this field, mostly. And then we take our airport code, we stuff that into our class object. Now for the date, there's a Zulu date and time, and it always has a Z on the end, which means Zulu, which is basically Greenwich Mean Time. So I just wanted to remove that, so that's why I do the substring to just remove the Z. We don't need the Z. And then we take the day of the month and the time out of that string from what's left. And we use that for our Metar date. Now here's another one that I do, the wind speed. That's the one that we looked at earlier. And one of the things that I didn't consider is that we may have gusts. So if we have gusts, the wind speed will say something like 5 miles an hour, or not miles an hour, 5 knots, and it'll say G for gusts up to 15 knots. So we need to look for that G and split that field. And then number 4 could be a rain indicator or a cloud cover. I'm going to open this up because this is what I've been using here as kind of my Metar guide. I mean, even though I know it, I tend to forget a bunch of things when I get on a live stream, like I think a lot of people do. So here we go with our Metar Help. We're going to refer back to this quite a bit. This has our station ID, Zulu date and time, the winds, visibility, etc. We're going to have to look for all of these things too. So I'm going to figure out exactly how we're going to do that. But we are going to look for these different descriptors here for weather phenomena. And of course those are inserted, you know, as it happens. Sky condition, temperature and dew point, altimeter and pressure, and then remarks. And as you can see here, A02 means it's automated. There's A02, A01, etc. Lightning frequency. There's a bunch of stuff that we can look for. So I may have bit off more I can chew. more than I can chew here, but we're going to keep chewing. That's what we do, right? So let's see how far we've got so far. So far we have everything from KHIO, which is the Hillsborough Airport. We have pretty much everything in here like we'd like, except for wind, I've noticed, is not correct. Because it says it's 000 knots. That is not correct. Yeah, get it? All right. Dad jokes. We have 1753 Zulu time. That looks correct. My visibility looks correct. 10 SM. I should probably just replace SM with statute miles. We have our cloud cover in there, but our temp and dew point, I can recognize 1915 is our temp dew point. And for some reason, it is in with cloud cover. So that's not correct. Our altimeter's not correct. So let's start with wind speed and direction, and let's start validating that and making sure that that is what we think it is before we store it in there. And the way I think I'm going to do that is by just checking the string. And now that I see it, I hard-coded this Metar in here for display purposes, but it's not the same Metar that's actually coming across from Hillsborough, which is right here. So that is something I did last time. We are going to hard code a lot of these here, but let's just do the actual real live Metar right now for Hillsborough. If you all in the chat want to shout out a city, we will find the Metar for the city near you. Well, from a towered airport near you. Okay, so now this looks a little bit better. We have our actual knots up here for wind speed direction, our visibility, 10 square miles, that looks good. Cloud cover, clear, but we're still getting, for some reason, that space right there is not being read. So let's just start with where we were going to start. The wind speed. So we need to do some if-thens in here, right? So if, and remember, wind speed should look like this right here. Should be 5 characters and then a KT. So if, we'll say Metar data 2, we could try starts with, maybe not starts with, contains is probably a better one. We can say if it contains KT, then this is most likely what we're looking for. Cut this, put here. Else, we need to look for something else. So let's hard code our Metar again. But this time we're going to, let's see. Here's our wind. We'll just take this one here. And see how it has that G? That means gusts. So we're going to use this as part of our testing. Let's put contains gusts. But without the gusts, it should look like this. So if it contains KT, then it's a wind speed. So let's drop that in there. We're hard coding our Metar right now, and we're just going to see what it comes up with. Go to weather, wind speed direction, etc. KT. So we'll cut the KT off of there just for a test case. And we have no wind speed. Perfect. So I think this is probably the best way, because we can't really look for 5 digits because it might be more than 5 digits. It might be gusts. So let's start looking for that. If it contains KT, we'll just do yet another if statement here, and we might clean this up. If it contains G, we need to do something different with it. If not, we can stuff it in here. So one thing I could probably do is put a field for gusts, so that it's a separate field in the class. So if we have G, then we'll split it by that G, and we'll add that to our gusts, because there should only be gusts and then one value. So if it contains G, let's jump back into this. Let's add another property. We'll try to keep it up near wind speed. String, we're going to call this gusts. And we had an example here. Gusts if they exist. So we'll split that, and if it has a G in it, then we know it has gusts. So then we need to say var. Let's see, how can we split this up? We need to split it. Temp string. And then we're going to say our metar data to split. We're going to split that by the G. And then from here, we could say our metar wind speed is going to be temp string 1, or no, 1 will be where the gust is, so it's going to be 0. And we need to split wind speed in degrees, but we'll do that here in a minute. And then our metar gusts are going to be temp string 1. Let's see what that looks like. We have nothing in wind speed and direction. So this does have a G for gusts. So we need to probably just jump through this and see what the problem is. Jeez, this thing is... My Visual Studio has been a little weird on this machine. All right, so we'll go to weather. Boom, we're here. So let's see what the string contains. Metar data 2 should contain KT. But I think we're going to need to break that into a string. Or we're going to have to extract that string because I think it's just skipping over it. We'll call this Winton for Metar. We're going to say Metar data 2. Let's just say string. We'll be explicit with it this time around. I might as well do that. Let's try this again. Oh, what did I do? There we go. And I'm just going to run it through with no debugging. Still no wind speed and direction. So, back to debugging. Okay, so we can view the text here in the debugger, and we can see that it has no KT in here. So I wonder if that Metar, when there's gusts, if it removes the KT. Let's find out. It could be my problem, because it should, unless I just forgot to put the KT in there. That's probably what it is. Because, yeah, it looks like KT. So that's programmer error. Let's start over again. Perfect. Contains KT. There's our wind speed and direction. So let's jump in here and throw our gusts. And we don't need this one, we need this one. And we're going to put another property on here. We're just going to call it gusts. If we have gusts, then we're going to add gusts in here. Cannot string to cool. Oh. Just say if length is more than 0 for gusts, because I was calling that as a Boolean. Oh, what does it say? I wanted to ask, what are you dealing with in the console? I can't even watch English. Thank you for the brief tutorial. So in the console, I'm not sure what you mean by that question. What am I dealing with in the console? Like, the debug messages, I have some of those coming out, but I'm not running this one from the console. I'm running this one from Visual Studio. So I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. It could be just a bunch of messages and stuff that are coming through. I have a bunch of non-nullable messages too, because I need to make some of these fields nullable. Like this one, returned null. So we'll say if gusts not equal to null, and the length is greater than 0. This should prevent that issue. Then we have wind speed and direction, but we have no gusts. So let's figure out why we have no gusts. Now, one thing I did in here to try to debug it was split it into a string, this wind for Metar. We don't actually need to do that. So I'm going to throw all of this back where it was. Wind from Metar does not exist. There we go. So our Metar gusts should be temp string 1. Let's go ahead and step through this really quick just to see what it is I've done wrong here. Okay, Metar data 2 contains a G. What is going on with my keyboard today? There we go. So it's recognized that yes, it contains G. So we'll do temp string. Now our temp string is 19020 and then 26 kT. So the gust should be 26 kT. And gusts are still null because temp string 1, that is very interesting. Temp string 1 is, this should say 26 K2 or KT because we've got wind speed stored here. Okay, and we skipped over that. Yeah, it's interesting that it does not want to do that. So what does our temp string look like? We've got 0 with 19020, and then we've got gusts of 26 knots. Is our wind speed being here? Our Metar. We'll put this in a little bit better place here. I guess we'll keep it down there. So gusts 26 knots. Wind speed 1920. So they do look like they're both populated at this point. But when I continue, I don't see any gusts in here. So let's check my check. It's not null. Let's just pull the whole if statement out really quick and see if it's going to show up on the page. Oh, that's right, we're debugging. So the gusts are showing up on the page. We'll remove the last two. So we'll do another substring here. We'll do this exact substring here, except we'll remove 2. Unhandled exception occurred. Let's check. Oh yeah, I did notice it was the same as the Chrome tools to bring this up. Length. Oh, I see. This is Metar data 2. And we got it to crash again. Let's try doing this. Metar data 2. I might just do a string replace on it at this point. Perfect. Let's see where we're at here. Our Metar. We've got our wind speed, our gusts. So -2 should work. Let's see, maybe it's temp spring that's having the issue. That should be fine. All right, we'll come back to that later because we still need to split and assign this. So we have our gusts, we have our wind speed and direction. But if we have no gusts, we want gusts to go away. So Metar data contains G. And split it into those two. So I'm going to try, let's see. Remove the gusts of 26. And we should have an empty gusts here now when we do. Okay. So how do we do that if statement on the Razor page so that it works? That is the question. Somewhere in our Razor we're having an issue. So if gusts null. Let's just try that. If it's not null, display it. If it's null, we don't want to display it. We don't want it to say gusts and then nothing after it, right? So this is just a little user interface tweak that we're trying to figure out. And I don't see gusts. I see wind speed and direction. However, scroll down here, we have gusts. I will admit, I'm a little confused right now. Let's see, we'll display gusts below just to make sure. Yeah, 26 knots, so it should be not null at this point. What if we have a length that's greater than 0? get returned null. Public string get set for Gus. Absolutely should not be happening. Because basically the compiler's saying, hey, this is null. And it's not. Reference not set to a reference of an object. I wonder if it's where I am creating this. Let's see, decode. We're creating a new metar up here. So this should absolutely work. Metar data, HIO, then it initializes. Maybe I'm not assigning it properly. Army Targus. Oh, so I'm not really assigning these things the way I should, am I? So if I see what I'm doing wrong now. I need to be checking that our metar object. Which I'm exposing directly. Now it works. Probably shouldn't expose it directly. We can do this for now, but I would like to not expose it directly if possible. I'd like to have a little more control over how we display this data. So at least we got it split. We'll just do a string replace on these two for the KT part of it. Let's test if we have no Gus. We use a different metar with no Gus. This should absolutely, yep. And now we're not showing any Gus because we don't have any Gus. Which is perfect. What I'm going to do is get a more recent report for our metar. Now this one will actually be a live real-time one from KHIO. There we go. And to test this, let's try hard coding in some different airports. This is our KHIO one. It's the Hillsborough Airport. This one's a little more recent. This was last week's. As you can see by the 09, that means it was from the 9th. This one's a little more up to date. We've got one with Gus. So I'll put with Gus for testing. And let's grab some other ones here. Some other metars for hard coding, just to kind of give a variable of different airports. So I don't know a whole ton of airport codes off the back of my head, but let's see. Here, I believe, yeah, that's right. So we'll do KPDX. which is my local Portland airport. Portland's really close to Hillsboro, so it should be probably pretty similar to this report, but we'll throw it in there as an example. Oh, thank you, Netrunner 1987. Let's do LAX. That should look significantly different from Portland's. So we'll do and here's something that I was talking about earlier. This is a perfect example right here about the differing fields. Notice how this has a different amount of fields. Because at LAX, and I can tell this is a recent one because I grabbed it, the KPDX one here at this time, and it looks like Netrunner grabbed the one from LAX at roughly the same time. But the reason why this is a really good example of what I was talking about is we have additional fields. So we have few clouds here at 9,000 feet, another few clouds, and then scattered clouds. So, as you can see here, we don't have the scattered clouds here at 140,000 feet like we do in LA. So what it's done is it's shifted everything over. Here's our temp and dew point, our altimeter, and then the remarks. It looks like they have about the same amount of remarks. So thank you for that example, because that one will help us with shifting things, our shifting fields problem that we have. Let's do JFK really quick. JFK should have different weather than us. So we'll add this in as another Metar to test. And this one has one in between the wind speed and the visibility. Let's check our Metar chart and see what that means. What happens when we have one between wind and visibility? This is variable winds, so I'm wondering if, let's see. One thing we could do to cheat is use a Metar decoder, which is exactly what we're building, right? And I looked at some of these Metar decoders when I was studying this stuff. Let's decode JFK's Metar decoder just so we can be sure what that report is. That's right. Wind direction is letiable between 350 and 260. So that's yet another little monkey wrench that's thrown in, is when it's variable wind direction, or letiable, I don't even know how to pronounce that. It means pretty much what you think it means. It's between 350 degrees and 260 degrees. So the wind direction changes a bunch. And if that happens, then, you know, here we have wind, true direction, 50 degrees, speed of 70 knots, but it's letiable, whatever that means. And then we have scattered clouds, broken sky, 25,000, etc. Let's do our KLAX decode here. But yeah, that's another monkey wrench that's thrown in that we'll have to address, is variable winds, which is fine. The folks who built this Metar decoder figured it out. We can figure it out too. even though I'm once again coming up on the hour. I'm supposed to end at the hour, but I don't necessarily need to. I have an amazing and supporting team here at the Plural site that allows me to do whatever on here. So here at LAX, this is the one that Netrunner gave us. We have wind, true direction, 260 degrees at 10 knots, visibility of 10 statute miles, and then, like I said, 900, 10,000, 14,000 different layers of clouds that are doing different things. There's only a few clouds here at this level, a few at the next level, and then scattered at the very top level. So this is pretty cool. What is another airport? Florida. Florida has somewhere down there. ORD. No, ORD is Chicago. We'll throw in Chicago too. Why not? Let's grab theirs, see what their weather report looks like. Not too bad. It's not too different. So you might wonder why the Chicago O'Hare Airport is ORD. And I think, if I remember correctly, it's because it used to be called the Orchards Airport a long, long time ago. Let's just look that up and verify. KORD Airport. Chicago O'Hare International Airport, ORD, or simply O'Hare is the main. Yeah. So designed to be successor to Midway, it nicknamed itself the busiest square mile in the world. It was renamed Orchard Field Airport in the mid-40s and assigned the IATA code ORD. So that's why it's O'Hare is ORD. It's kind of interesting how they come up with some of this stuff. Decode. So Orchards Field Airport, also known as O'Hare, it looks like 10 statute miles, a few clouds at 5,500 feet, a few at 25,000, etc. Pretty close to the same as us. Basically, I'm just grabbing these for test purposes because we're going to run all of these through here. That might be a cool thing for next week if people are interested. Maybe we'll build some unit tests and we'll just throw a whole bunch of these at it and say, hey, this has a gust in it. Is it going to show gusts or not? Oh, and we've got another one from Netrunner. Hello, Thindle. How's it going? I almost caught your stream yesterday. I got a notification for your stream, and I was like, this looks really cool. It's about wind forms, and then I had to do something else. I got called away. It happens. Too much sometimes. So this one is KMD. I'm assuming this is Midway in Chicago. I don't know my airport codes that well. I'm not a real pilot. I fly toy helicopters. Let's see. So yeah, KMD. Let's throw this through the decoder really quick. All right, so I think this is a pretty good test. Too darn warm so I could barely concentrate. I know exactly what you mean. Our AC system is being taxed in the house right now. And it does make it hard to concentrate. So, I think we've got enough here to test. We can at least test the gusts and knots. Now, one thing that I forgot to check, so let's do ORD as our Metar here. Oh, what did I break? What did I break? Oh, there we go. Oh, it's good. I should probably bring this up. So Thindle asks, what the heck is it? So this is a Blazor application. And what I'm doing is taking Metar reports from towered airports, and they're weather reports that are sent out every 55 minutes, and they're for pilots. They can request a Metar, and then it goes across the screen, and they can see what the general weather is like in that area before they land or take off. So what I'm doing is taking this string. This is what the string actually looks like. This is what the pilots read. And we're trying to break that string down with this Blazor app and just make it a little more user-friendly, pretty much. Yeah, Metar reports are publicly available. You can get them all over the place. I am using this service here, checkwx.com. Totally logical and obvious, I know, right? Like those strings. I had to memorize them to get my drone pilot's license. That's what inspired this. I was like, that is a wacky string of information that should be made beautiful. And yeah, I'm getting these from checkwx.com. So last week I put these in, put in a call to this API. I'm just using the personal version of it, which only gives me like 2,000 requests a day or something. But it'll give Metars for all of the different airports based on their code. And all of them start with K in the United States, at least. And then you just put in the code. All right, local airport. Let's see what this comes up with. Because so far our application is only reading United States airports. So let's see what happens when we throw in a different one. Oh, it doesn't like it at all. See, there's another loophole. This thing could end up being like a month-long project, but it's fun, right? It's meeting all these challenges. Index outside their bounds of the array. Which one did it break on? Should know the string Metar in line 132. Oh, so very good. So I need to check the length of this. That would be a really good idea. So do a length check and say if length is this, because one of the things that I've noticed here is that this Metar is a little bit shorter. Let's see how our Metar decoder handles that. It handles it just fine. So here it says ESGJ 16th. Report is fully automated, no human intervention or oversight. Wind 150 degrees, 8 knots, visibility 10 kilometers or more. And we've got a temperature of 20 degrees, dew points at 20 degrees. So yeah, it's super humid. So Thindle mentions, I think the 100% humidity might be why it feels so warm. If you look at the dew point and the temperature, they are both 20. So yeah, that is incredibly humid. It probably feels like you're swimming in fog right now. That's pretty amazing. But thank you for sending me this, because I hadn't even considered the international angle. And I hadn't considered airports that don't put out all of the information. Yeah, 28 Celsius, 80 Fahrenheit. That's another thing I want to do with this application, is a quick conversion to Fahrenheit. But I'll leave Celsius on there because most of the world uses Celsius. I wish the United States used Celsius. I think that would be incredible. However, we do not. But I try to think in Celsius when I can. So I'm going to put a little note here. International. So let's just do some if statements. So you do know that the U.S. is officially on the SI system, right? What is the SI system? Standard Imperial? I'm not actually sure. Everyone, including those, screw that and kept displaying Imperial. Oh, System International. Huh. Everyone said screw that and kept displaying Imperial. Yeah, that's one thing that I think most people, even many people who live in the United States, could give a 30-minute talk on, no problem, why we should ditch the imperial system. I think anyone outside the United States is like, duh. But even those of us who are in it, I would also like to get rid of Phillips screws in the United States and use Robertson. But that's another thing I could give a 30-minute talk on. But we don't have time for that today. Now, what I'm going to do is just put in some quick checks, and I'll find a smarter way to do this. But I'm going to check and make sure that the length of this Metar data is long enough so that we can avoid that error that we got. Maybe if the length is greater than 1, we'll start doing all this stuff with number 2. And I'm totally spacing this out. Zachary, you're probably 100% correct. 96% of everything is made to make you spend money. Yes. Yeah, I understand the idea behind the Phillips is that you can't over tighten it. And that's great. However, when the steel gets old, it becomes weak. And so then when you do need to give it more torque to tighten it, necessary amount of torque, it completely strips out. See, if the metal just stayed the way it was, I think it would be an amazing design, but I like the Robertsons, especially for building things, like when you're putting things together, because you can just bzz, 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 and go to town. That's why they do it with, in the United States, they do use Robertson screws for decks and things like that, like building decks, construction. But I would like to see them everywhere. Okay, so we're checking to make sure that we have the length that is greater than 1. And I'm just, for some reason, I know there's a way better way to do this, and I just can't think of it right now. So we're going to do this until I think of a better way to check the length of all of these. Where did this one come from? So if length is greater than 1, if it's greater than 2, we'll go here. So we'll start splitting these out a little bit. This is if it's greater than 1. If it's greater than 2, we can get 3. We'll just clip that off right there. If it's greater than 3, we'll grab this one. greater than 4. If we're greater than 5. Because we never really know how long this thing's going to be. Oops. If it's greater than 5, read altimeter. This way the fields may not be in the correct order, but at least it won't fall on its face when there isn't enough fields to make things happen. That's basically what I'm trying to do right now, is just prevent it from just completely falling on its face. And then we'll put some handling in there to handle the different fields, like we discussed earlier. Oops. And I really need to find out why my Visual Studio is being so weird. I actually don't use this version of Visual Studio for very much. I do most of the stuff on my laptop. And for some reason this one just has weird behaviors, like when I press enter and it shoves it down to the bottom there. It's kind of weird. So, turning 7. Okay. Now we're checking for remarks. So this should be remarks at this point. Should be. What I think the best thing to do, especially since we got, format it here real quick, especially since we got this international one with different fields. Make sure you read them and catch them. Yeah. I think, I don't know if I want to catch the exception yet. Yes, Control K, Control D is what I keep hitting. Thindle just pointed that out to format, because, yeah, if you're not a patient person like me and you've got things all weird, you can just say Control K, Control D, formats it, sets it right back into place. So now I think we could actually read that Metar, and it won't be correct, but it shouldn't break. I say should. We're still outside the bounds of the array. 148, 59, 42. Let's see, 158. Oh, I see. Good call. Yeah, because we're trying to read that. So if it exists at all, and it has something in it, then we'll go from there. I want to see exactly where this thing breaks when I try to read the Metar that you sent me. So length is less than 1? Does not seem right. Yeah, that doesn't seem right at all. Metar data length 1. I'll put greater than 0. But that shouldn't matter because it's more than 1 anyway, so. Yeah, it could be. With that, let's see. If metar length is greater than 0, oh, now it looks like it's acknowledging that it's more than 0, but it's not more than 1, which is a little strange. And then it doesn't contain KT, so it must not be a field, so yeah, you're correct. And then if it's greater than 2, let's see what we're getting here. In number 3, we are getting wind speed instead of visibility, but that's okay. Then length 3. I wonder if, we'll see. I'm tempted to like do a for loop through this thing and just loop and see what kind of field it is and then assign it to the field on the object. Oh, Thindle, do not apologize for messing everything up. No, this is a learning experience. This is great. And it was messed up before you got here, to be fair. So you didn't actually mess anything up, but you added a good edge case for me to improve this thing for sure. So we're looking at our metar data here. It is greater than 4. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking now as I sit here is I should just for each through this thing, since they're all strings, every bit of, I mean, there's integers in there, but I'm treating them as strings. It's all strings, so I could just for loop through it and say, does this look like an altimeter reading? If it is, then we'll put it here. I think that's the way to save code here. And we can change the order of things and do it. Yeah, actually, yeah, I'll probably do a for loop. That way I can use I. I talked about that in one of my streams. I don't remember if it was a personal stream or Pluralsight stream or which stream it was, but I was talking about how I like to use for loops instead of for each, just so I can have that little I. That it's just so useful many times. Okay, now this one, our length should not be greater than 8. But it is. All right, so where exactly is it? Is it choking now? Let's try this again. No backseating tag. Oh, backseating is perfectly fine on my streams. WebSocket connection error. Index out of range, outside the bounds of the array. Starts at line 148. String airport. So I'm getting metar data from KORD there, but 148. Let's go down there. And that's metar data. Ah, okay. So I need to check that. Checking the wrong field for length. Now we go here, and it is 146. So maybe instead of length checking. We're checking for null. I think I'm just going to do this 4 thing. I think that's going to be the best bet. It's going to mean a bit of refactoring. But I think that might actually save code in the long run. So yeah, here we're saying if the length is greater than 7, which apparently it is, but then this length should be 0. I also need to check to see if it's null. Just a lot of strange long amounts of checks here. Let's make sure that this is our problem child. I think this is our problem child, but we'll just comment this out completely and see if we can run it. Yep, it is our problem child. Is the remarks thing, which here it does have remarks. Oh, never mind. This is KRD. Different one. So I'm going to put this ESGJ. And I'm going to hard code that up here. We'll try it again. Yep. So we're pretty close. Looks like we're about 1 field off. So yeah, I'm gonna do this for each thing that I talked about. So if we do this, we look at all these if lengths, blah blah blah. Let's just go through metar data. Now I still want if metar data length is greater than 0, because that means that we actually have some fields in here. I'm going to say 4. Less than metar data length I++. Just 4 through that thing. And what we're doing here is just basically iterating through. I like to put space there. So we're just saying if we have any metar data, like any fields in here, then we're just going to for each through them. And then we can say if it's field 0 and it has characters, it must be X. So I'll comment this stuff out. There's a lot of it. And why can I not comment this stuff out? Probably too many open and closing comments in here. Where else did I put that? Oh yeah, can't nest these ones. Don't think I have any other ones. There we go. All right, so I'm just keeping these so I can refer back. Yes, my IDE does have problems. It's a little wild. I think I installed ReSharper on and I don't use ReSharper nearly as much as I used to. I don't think anybody does. And so I'm wondering if there might be a ReSharper problem. Because I want to say I did install ReSharper on here for something. So if I is 0, we're going to say this is probably station identifier, which there was an official word I saw on here that oh, first is Metar type, station ID, yeah, station identifier. I've not used CodeRush in a really long time, but I kind of wanted to get back to it. It looks fun. It was fun the last time I used it, but it was a long time ago. So this is probably the station identifier. Let's say if the length is equal to 4. That's probably an identifier. It's kind of a silly thing to look for if it's 4, but CodeRush is free if you don't need support. That's pretty awesome. So if you're wondering what Thindle's talking about here in the chat, CodeRush. CodeRush for Visual Studio. Code at the speed of thought. This thing, I used it. It's been a while since I used it. It was pretty new, but it kind of generates some code for you. Helps with boilerplate stuff. It's the same thing. I use a couple of these types of programs, Visual Studio Code, but code refactoring. Yeah, the top result is a paid ad for ReSharper. Yeah, I noticed that too. I didn't want to say anything, but I was like, yeah, come on. Code visualization. So I'm gonna have to check this out again. It's free, and if you want to buy it with support, that's a little expensive. But if I were still developing software every single day for a company, that would probably be worth it. Yeah, the entire control package. So you could get something like WPF, ASP.NET. Yeah. Pretty cool. I see what you're saying. Universal subscription. That looks pretty cool. That's my ad for the day. Actually, I've got a couple of promos. So I have some stickers. I don't know if you can see them on here, but got some cool stickers. So I'm going to give these out when I give a talk, like at a meetup or a conference or something. But I thought, what the heck? You know, why can't I give them out on a live stream? But these are stickers. They were designed by David Neal. I think all of them were. I'm not really sure. David Neal's the one that's doing the stream on Thursday. But it's got cool things like this. Task failed successfully. You can't see it because of my camera, but one that says, hold on, I'm processing. Flow state. Kind of a hippie looking thing there. Laptop with a million screens. Level up. There's all these kinds of stickers. Anyway, I'm not going to show you every single one of them, but I've got a whole box of stickers to give away. So if you follow us on Twitch, send me a private message on Twitch and say, I would like some stickers, and I'll send you a sticker pack of cool Pluralsight stickers. And if I see you at a meetup or a conference or something, I'll you can get even more stickers. It's fine. But yeah, they're pretty cool stickers. So to jump back in here, let's see, probably an ID, right? So did I comment out where I was pulling ID? I think I did, but that's fine, because we'll just say our Metar airport code is equal to this. Let's just start with our airport code. Whoops. I don't know why I put is equal. Assignment operator, not comparison. All right. So let's make sure we've got the first one. There we go. Somehow I've got time and day of month there too. I don't know how. I must not have commented everything. I have no idea. Oh, that's right. We're assigning all of this stuff up here. I started this thing way too early. So we're just going to pull this here. Metar data. We're going to blast that out. There's the length that I could just, since I'm already checking it once. Or Metar count. There we go. So Metar count. Same thing with this one, so we don't have to call length so many times. Or count. This is going to be the next one, the date time one. We'll separate this, and we're going to put this in its own little area too. So far we do have the airport code. If its length is 4, then it's probably an airport code. I think it's a pretty safe assumption. Now I would say if it starts with K or something like that, however, we want to be international with this, so we're just going to say if it's four characters, then that's probably what it is. We could say if this ends with a Z, then it must be time. So we got that first field. And we're going to say if I is equal to 1, we'll do some checking on 1. Yes, Zulu time is Greenwich Mean Time. It's the same thing. They just call it Zulu. But it's, yeah, same thing. That's another cool thing to add on to this thing. So I do think I'm going to keep building on this tool, because I'd like to put a little time converter in there and say that it's this time, Zulu time, but this time in your time zone, whatever that may be. So now we know that we're going into that second field that's probably going to be a date. So we could say Metar data contains Z. Oops. If Metar data contains Z, it's probably Zulu time. Oh, Greenwich isn't on GMT. I didn't know that. That is pretty hilarious, actually. I did not know that Greenwich isn't on Greenwich Mean Time. Is BST like a temporary shift, like daylight savings that we do here? All right. Let's see, this stuff is all the stuff we did for the date. Yeah, British summertime. here. We're creating a Metar date. Removing that Z. Then we're taking the day a month and Zulu time. And this one we're not changing it on the object, but we're changing it up here. So I should do this. Or that's right, because it's for display purposes. So we're just storing Zulu date and time on our object. However, for display purposes, we're pulling these two out. Oh, somebody just let me know that we are not working on LinkedIn, which is a little sad. Okay, I'm going to check something here really quick. So we may not do the LinkedIn streams anymore. It's kind of getting silly how LinkedIn works. Here. And my apologies, I'm just doing a quick little tech check here. We're not working there. This is why you should probably follow us on Twitch. We seem to always land on Twitch. And it looks like we are on Facebook, which is awesome. That's fantastic. So we are live on Facebook. Let's see. We are live on YouTube. Fantastic. So we're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. We're not live on LinkedIn, as far as I can tell. Oh, we are live on LinkedIn. I just needed to refresh it. But the one place you can always find us is on Twitch, because Twitch always works every single time. Dindle says we deserve more than 37 followers. So we just started out, we basically just started out a while ago on Twitch again. So we had a Twitch channel, and then we, that's pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. So we had a Twitch channel. We started to build it up. We got locked out of it. That's the one that says Pluralsight Official. That is our official Twitch channel that we cannot get into anymore. So we created Pluralsight_live, and then David and I are jumping on here and building streams. So I'm hoping that we don't have 37 followers forever. I'm hoping to build up a little bit more following on that page. So, where was I? We are here doing the for loop. We've got 1820 Zulu time up here. So this is all being taken. Yeah, we should all be, I'm going to say, I'm going to put this in here just for all of us, because I'm making this code public also, but I'm putting in comments so that I don't forget next week. Splitting by space. Getting length of array. Okay. Then this get date time. So if there's more than, or if there's one or more elements in our string array, we're going to for each through it. The first one is probably an ID, probably an airport code. These first few are all pretty consistent. So if it's number 1, it's probably time. Remove the Z. Get the day of the month. Get the time. Store it on our object. Now I said this would be less code to do it this way. It may not actually be, but I think it will be more elegant. It'll work better. I could just as easily do a switch statement for this. Even though everybody on the internet hates switch statements for some reason, this might actually be a very good use of a switch statement just to prevent as many lines in between, but we'll see. So number 2, what is number 2? Let's go find, there it is, our Metar thing. So we're kind of ignoring this because type Metar doesn't really come up, though we should check for that. But the next one is wins. So wins is where everything gets silly. Wind. We'll just put that there. Date time. And then I'll put a question mark when things start changing. So this one, wind. And I think even that Metar that we looked at here, this one has auto inserted in there. So that might be one of the different things about international that we should look for. I don't know, as long as you don't do var XX switch pattern, is that way lies madness. Yeah. I like pattern matching when it works. It's pretty awesome, but it can get messy very quick. So I'm going to put wind question mark because this may not be wind. So if our meter I suppose I could put 2 since I'm checking for 2. If it's auto, or no, it's not our Metar 2, it's Metar data 2. If it's auto, this is an automatic station. I'll put probably international, because that's what ours is showing right now. Metar data auto, else it's probably wind. Could say if ends with what is it, KT, then it's probably wind. So that's a good check. I dumped this here, but oh yeah. Yeah, C pointers are wild. Not fun. So in the Twitch chat we have discussion about C function pointers, returning void pointers rather than deal with pattern matching. I would rather do neither. Those are the types of things that make me want to retire to a fishing village with no internet connection. But pattern matching is cool when it works. I haven't had a good use of void function pointers that have made me happy, but I have at least had pattern matching that made me happy at one point or another. But I still agree. Let's see, wind, speed, and we did something with this. If it has gusts, we split it. So we're gonna have to do that again. It's probably wind. So if metar data 2 contains a G. I mean, this data structure is rigid but not rigid at the same time. PTSD from the function pointers for sure. So if it contains G, we have gusts. Temp string is going to be metar data 2 split by the letter G. And then we're going to say our metar wind speed is temp string 0. This isn't going to affect our current metar that we're looking at, but this will do for future ones. So what I'm doing here is just saying if there's a G, then we know there's gusts. So let's split it where the G is, because that's how it's split, like gusts of whatever. We'll split that value. And then we're going to remove KT for knots. Which I'll probably have to find the index, huh? Jeez, all right. We'll just pop the 2 characters off the end there. If it contains it. That's right. Because it may not have KT in there. So if this contains KT, we're going to remove it. Else, we're just going to display it as it is. So that's for our gusts. And I suppose we could do the same thing for wind speed. But the wind speed shouldn't have a KT in it in this instance. It will in the next one. So if it doesn't contain a G, we're going to say no gusts. So all we need to worry about here is wind speed. And if it contains KT, so if, and it's not temp string 0, it's going to be metar data 2. If metar data 2 contains KT, that's knots, then we're going to strip it out of there. Same way we did here. Remove, remove. All right, thank you for joining the chat, Thindle. It's always fun to talk to you. And yeah, thanks for joining in today. Wind speed. equals metar data 2. And I think I am going to wrap this up pretty quick, close to the next hour. Even though I'm having a ton of fun, I do have other things that I have to do today. But I'll probably be wrapping it up here pretty shortly. So here, if it contains, we have no dusks. If it contains KT, let's remove it. And metar data remove. Length -2. Let's push play and see what it does. And I should share the joke that Thindle shared in the chat on Twitch. If you're not watching from Twitch, you're watching from somewhere else. There are 3 hard things in programming: recursion, pointers, time, and off by 1 errors. Good stuff. All right, now I'm looking at this here and seeing that this one has auto. So if it's auto, the next one has to be treated as date. So this kind of makes me want to put in some helper methods onto my object that basically say, treat this as a date. So what I could do here is, if it's auto, like it is here, then let's throw the next one into date, if that makes sense. So metar data 3 would be the date. And that's where basically I want to do everything that I'm doing here, which I'll duplicate for now, but I don't really want to keep it that way. But what I'll do here is I'm going to create a method because I just don't want to duplicate this code. So this is all in decode metar, which is becoming huge. But we're going to say private void store date string date Zulu, we'll say. Now what we're going to do here is do a bunch of checking. And we're going to check date Zulu instead of metar data 2. Date Zulu. Date Zulu. Here we're creating this temp string, so if date Zulu contains G, we're going to split it. Temp string contains nots. Okay, so this part of it is good. This one, if date Zulu contains KT, and speed date Zulu remove. Oh, this is for wind stuff. So not store wind, store, or not store date, store wind. That's how you know I've been streaming too long, because making silly mistakes. So this is for wind data. Wind data. Remove temp string length. If wind data contains KT, we will remove it, remove it, remove it. So here we're still storing everything, but we can just dump it in and say store wind. So way up here, if it's auto, then we can just say store wind from Metar data. Oh, looks like I do have a meeting coming up, so I will have to bail out of here. Store wind data 3. There, you see? Else, if it ends with KT, this is probably wind data. So we'll just say store wind number 2. Last thing we're going to do here today, and we'll test it out. Let's see. Perfect. So we have ESGJ here. Now this is an international station, and we have wind speed here, 130 degrees, 5 knots in the wind speed direction. Now let's test it with, we'll disconnect this, and up here we'll change this to KPDX, which is Portland. And let's see if we get the Portland wind speed, because Portland wind speed is going to be in a different field than the ESCJ. And there it is. 300 degrees, 6 knots. Perfect. So we managed to fix that problem. So if there's an auto that comes in, and auto is, it's actually right here on the United States Metar. But if we have auto that's inserted in here, we can still jump forward to that next one and grab it and treat it like a date. There's going to be some more logic like this, but it's actually, I mean, it's fairly clean, I think, by doing it that way. We just store the next one forward. Of course, we're going to put some test cases around that. But I like that solution of doing a for loop through this. I think is going to be smarter as far as dealing with the flexible amount of data in the array. So before I go, I would like to say, once again, follow us on Twitch. If you're watching us on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, we stream to all those places. However, most of our focus is on Twitch. And as an added bonus, we show up on Twitch every single time we do these streams. So when we stream out to multiple places, sometimes it doesn't come up on LinkedIn, sometimes it doesn't come up on YouTube, but it always comes up on Twitch. So follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/pluralsitelive. And once again, I'm going to show the stickers. I'm going to show the stickers again. Let's go to the camera here. So I've got these stickers, and these are for people who are fans of Pluralsight that I'm going to give out at presentations, conferences, meetups, whatever, but also going to give them out on live stream. Here's one that says, "Hold on, I'm processing." Here's another cool one. Task failed successfully. This is probably one of my favorite ones. It's really hard to see, but it's a stack of windows like we used to get back in the old days. Cool looking laptop. You know, these are all just kind of like cool laptop stickers, and I will send them to you. So follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/pluralsitelive. Send me a private message on there or whisper and say, I would like some stickers and your address, and I'll send you some of those stickers for your laptop. It'll be awesome. That's the prize I'm giving out today. And it looks like there's about 30 of you on here, so I might get totally flooded, but that's fine. Even if all 30 of you want stickers, send them in. And I'm going to go ahead and close this down for today. So today we did a lot more stuff with the Metars. We're starting to make this thing more flexible. It looks like it's going to stretch out into probably another stream before we get it really right where I want it, which is, you know, to pull this Metar and give English readable information instead of these long strings of data that are just cryptic and all over the place. And we're going to do it. We're going to make it work, and it's going to be awesome. So I would like to thank everybody for coming in today. Also, Here's a good URL. I'm being nominated for Hacker Noon Contributor of the Year for .NET. I think it's really exciting. I didn't win a Noonie last year, but I did the year before, so I kind of want to win one again. So if you think that my contributions to .NET on Hacker Noon are awesome, then vote for me. You can go to that URL, noonie.net, and it will show you all of the Hacker Noon Contributor of the Years. Hopefully you will vote for Jeremy Morgan. That would be awesome. But anyway, thank you for all of you who have watched on, like I said, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, all of these places. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Be sure to follow us on Twitch. That's where most of our efforts will be focused. And also, so I'm here every Tuesday. I'll be here next Tuesday. However, on Thursdays, David Neal is streaming. That is also known as Reverent Geek. And he is building an Electron app that is a teleprompter app. It's really cool. He's a really exciting streamer to watch. Very fun, very engaging, very entertaining. So if you like this and you're following today because you like this show, then you will definitely want to tune in on Thursday because that show is going to be pretty awesome. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming in. Unfortunately, it's time to turn it off. But I'll see you all next week. We're going to keep working on this. We're going to make it awesome. We're going to make it great. And I hope to see all of you there. So thank you very much. And we will see you next week